R. Scott, explaining how the vaccine works and affected. And despite the prevalence of the virus and people dying, you have many people not believing in the vaccine, which is able to, and the data supports this, limit the spread of the virus or limit the chance of hospitalization if people, in fact, contract the virus. And you also have the leaders of popular culture, people like Buju Banton and Sprague Benz, in quite a disgraceful fashion, yes, spreading false news, yes, fake news, false information, and people are lapping, some people, I should say, are lapping up their every word, yes, and putting their lives in danger. But there are people who genuinely have concerns about the vaccines and are trying to make up their mind. And here is a Jamaican, a trained professional, Harvard graduate, trained in the area of immunology, Dr. Ramon R. Scott, explaining how the vaccine works. And from the point of view of public education, Dr. R. Scott ventured to explain how the vaccine stimulates the body to produce antibodies to attack the antigens in the COVID-19 before they get a chance of damaging the body beyond repair. Have a listen.
I want you to realize that the immune system is an army. It's literally a police force with different members that have different functions. And like every army, there's a general. Here it is. He's called the CD4 T helper cell. Tells people what to do. You have a detective, intelligence officer called an antigen presenting cell. It goes out and finds intruders and finds information for the immune system to respond to. You've got the sniper, the shoot to kill guy, the infantry officer. We call them the CD8 killer T cells. And then you have the regular policeman who carries handcuffs. And when I say handcuffs, that's what antibodies are. If you hear antibodies, what are they? They're literally just handcuffs for a particular intruder. So what happens is that all these cells are made in the bone, the marrow of the bone, and then they leave the bone marrow and go to an organ called the thymus, which is in the upper chest. And that's what school is for them. In the thymus, they learn what makes you, you. What are your building blocks for your cells? We call those building blocks antigens. And for the rest of your life, after that, this detective you see on the screen is looking for two things. Anything that's not you, i.e. a virus or a bacteria, or anything that's an altered version of you, a mutation of you, i.e. a cancer cell. What happens when he finds this intruder? He picks him up and carries him to the police station, i.e. lymph nodes. Lymph nodes, that's all they are. The ones in the head and neck, that's the precinct for any infection up here. The ones under the armpit, anything going on in the breast and upper back, that's what they are. They're just police stations. And in the police station, this detective presents this intruder to the general and says, General, look what I found. I found this guy, he's not one of us. The general calls in the police, i.e. the B cell, and say, cuff him. Calls in the sniper and says, Sniper, shoot him. But before you cuff him and shoot him, I need a favor from each of you. The B cell, the policeman, I need you to make a whole squadron, multiply a squadron of yourself that will have handcuffs specifically for this intruder. So that if he ever shows up again, you cuff him on arrival. You don't need a detective to find him first. You're there, you cuff him. Sniper, I want you to do the same thing. Have a SWAT team. These are the good guys on the right side of the scene, the snipers and the police, the memory T cells, we call them, the SWAT team. If you see this guy again, shoot him on arrival. Here's the problem, Maria. The time it takes to create this specialized force for this intruder takes 2 weeks. So if you run into a dangerous virus, it can do a lot of harm in 2 weeks before you have that specialized SEAL Team 6 security force to tackle it. So what's a vaccine? Many, many years ago, scientists said, can we give the immune system a heads up about these dangerous intruders so that they can form these forces so if they ever run into the real thing, they've got the security force before this thing can cause damage.
Dr. R. Scott expanded on how the Oxford AstraZeneca vaccine works, and he noted that no virus is put into the body via the injection.
Oxford and Johnson, they took a little harmless virus, gutted its insides, and just took its shell, it's called the adenovirus, and used that as the vector, as the shell to transmit its bug. The first three, you need 2 shots in order to say, oh, the immune system say, yep, this hat's a problem. We need to create an army about anything that shows up with this hat. Johnson & Johnson did it in 1 shot. No, everybody's talking about which one's better than the other. All of them are good. All of them prevent 100% of the time disease, ICU admission, and death. If you get infected and you're not vaccinated, what happens? What happens to the virus? The virus, as I told you, just wants to bind to your cell, hijack your workman, and multiply. But what's unique to viruses? Every time they multiply, they change a little. So look at this gunman. He's got a blue jacket, he's got a green hat, he's got a gun over his back. Sometimes he just changes his coat. If he's got a yellow coat, red coat, may not be a big difference. Sometimes they pick up a bigger gun. So what does that mean? You got a more deadly virus. What happens if they change their hat? No, that's a problem. Because the vaccines are now all against this green hat. So if somebody gets infected and the virus changes in that person, you've now created a new monster that the vaccinated people are not protected against. And we're back to square one. So current vaccines wouldn't work against if they change the hat. So far, the hat hasn't changed enough. Out of the millions of variants that are out there, remember, you need the hat to get around. So it's changing a little bit, but it hasn't changed enough that we still aren't protected. If you are vaccinated, you got your sniper at the door, you got the police at the door waiting on some guy to show up with the green hat. They cuff him and they shoot him. So what ends up happening? You got infected, i.e. he broke in the front door. There's security forces there, but he can't do anything because they cuffed him. So yeah, I tested positive, but he can't multiply. And if he can't multiply, then there's a very, very low chance of you spreading it. And guess what? Even more importantly, he can't change. He can't change his hat. Therefore, you can't create a different monster. So it's not just protecting you from getting sick. It's protecting you from being the host that creates the new monster.
So it prevents mutation.
Dr. Ramon R. Scott.